Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Playbook. I'm Phil D'Amico alongside my co-host Matt Huntsberger. Over the next several shows, we're going to bring you stories of real entrepreneurs, their life travels, and how they got into business. And also we're going to look at what are the key issues facing entrepreneurs today. This week we are so fortunate to have Peter Rienks. Peter is the owner of the Rienks Group Development Company. So Peter, it's great to have you. Thanks for being here.
Phil. Thanks for having me.
What's really interesting is, so much today we talk about entrepreneurship, right? And I think over the next several shows, and you're going to kick it off, there's so many issues facing entrepreneurs today. So I really want to start out really getting an idea. How did you transition into going from a business perspective, business world, back into your own business?
Yeah, that's a great question. And first of all, thanks for having me on the show.
Great to have
I'm
you,
honored
sure.
to be your first guest. It's a privilege.
Absolutely.
I got to set that bar really high. That transition, man, that's crazy. It's life altering. You got to think about all the different parts of your life that really are impacted by that decision. Your family, your friends, your business network. Sure. And part of my story, it was, you're driving a company car, you've got a salary, you've got employees, your phone's ringing off the hook, emails are pouring into
Right.
your inbox, and you know what I didn't realize is how much self-worth you get from all of those things, right?
Sure.
When your phone's blowing up and you're getting text messages and people calling you and coworkers, hey, how do you do this and how do you figure that out? You get a lot of self-worth from that. And so when I made that transition, when I said, okay, I'm putting this aside and I'm going to go start my own thing, all of that just abruptly ends. Nobody's calling you.
Yep.
No, you're getting no email. I was getting like one email a day, and it was from ESPN about something like a subscription service.
If you're going to get an email, though, ESPN's a good way to get it.
Yeah, sure.
It's a good one,
Here's what's going on. And it was interesting because I really struggled those first few weeks, kind of sense of accomplishment, your self-worth, and you don't realize, even in your day-to-day job working for somebody else, how much value and sense of accomplishment you get even doing some of those little things.
Yeah, and I know, Matt, you are the president and CEO of Sprint Guard, so your story can probably relate to this. I guess maybe talk a little bit about what Peter's
Yeah,
talking
I mean,
about.
I'll echo what he said. There's a lot of things you got to think about when you make that leap. And I like what you said there, too. I mean, I think a lot of people find their identity in their job. So when you do make that leap, you need to be prepared that, you're out there and it's you now.
Right.
You're
right.
out there on your own.
Well,
So.
I do want to get to something because I think this is really important. So how tough of a decision is it to leave that comfort? Because you look at some of the stats that you got 30% of all new startups fail in the first 2 years, 45% fail in the first 5 years, 65 within the first 10. Only about 20% ever make it to 10 years plus, right? So some of those are daunting. So how do you make that decision to leave the comforts of a real world and get into start, like you said, where you might have the dead time, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. No, that's another good question, and I hope not to be one of those statistics. I really, I'm trying my hardest not to be.
Right.
So I think you got a few different things going on. First of all, making that decision, making that transition, I don't think it is for everybody. I really don't. For me
You
to
have to have a
sit
certain
here,
mindset, right?
right. For me
Yeah.
to sit here and to say that if you've got an idea, go chase it and make it happen. But there is a certain amount of peace that you get working for somebody else, right? Somebody else is defining for you what a successful day is. Somebody else is making those hard decisions, and that's not an easy task to make those decisions. And so there's a lot of respect that I have for people that work for other employers.
Sure.
And are creating a good living for their family and working really hard and hustling. But you get into some of those statistics, and I think you have a few things going on there, right? Where you're representing a bad product. Hey, turns out that nobody really needed that in the first place.
Right.
You got some of these
Right.
specialty cake shops, and the top of the muffin.
Yeah,
The
Seinfeld, yeah.
The Seinfeld. And so, you think of some of these bad ideas, but I think the number one reason why a lot of these small businesses fail is because they went into it with the wrong motives. They went into it trying to get rich quick. They went into it because I want to be my own boss. I don't want to,
Sure.
answer to anybody. And the main reason you should get in there is because you are convinced that your product or service is
That's
going
a
to
great
change the
point.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to have passion and motivation because, it's not guaranteed riches. It's not a
Right.
smooth ride. And if you think you're going to get rich, you'll never be as poor as you've ever been
Yeah.
when you start your own business. If you think it's going to be great to be your own boss, the reality is you're now more accountable to so many more people than you've ever been before.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think those are some. I would say the wrong motives lend itself to a lot of those reasons why small businesses
Yeah, the one thing I
fail.
like that he brought up is you got to believe in the product. You got to believe
Yeah.
you have a proprietary product that's going to change the market, whatever that market is, right? And I
Yep.
guess you're in that realm now because you make a sprinkler guard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think faith is a big thing. You got to have
Sure.
faith in what you're doing. We see a lot of people that are in sales or whatever that is, and they do really well. It's because they believe, like Peter said, in what they're doing. They believe in the company that backs them.
Yeah.
I think, just maybe jump a little ahead here, but I think one of the biggest challenges for people that are jumping out there to become entrepreneurs themselves.
Yep.
I mean, that's the biggest challenge. I know we talk about financing, all these other things, but really it's yourself. Are you going to be disciplined? Are you going to make yourself get up every day and do the hard things like we talked about
Right.
before we started?
Right. And there are a lot
Go ahead, yeah.
of great businesses that never even take off because
Yeah.
people rationalize
Right.
Yep.
and they're fearful. I would say, for every one of those businesses that fail, there's probably a great business that never took off.
Yeah.
Because that person was rationalizing not to those statistics
Right.
prevent people
Yep.
from launching great ideas.
Well, what's interesting, both you guys kind of touched on it a little bit, but when you're in that workforce, you have a support group, right? Whether it's your boss or a team, right? Now you're on your own. So how important is it, I guess, to have faith, family, and develop your own kind of, intrinsic support group versus having that company behind you?
Yeah, my faith and family is a big reason that set me on this journey because I was working at a solar company and I loved it. I was really, really enjoying it. I was crushing it. I was getting to go to big cities and have meetings with Fortune 500 companies, and we were doing a lot of sales. And I wanted to learn more about it, and that sent me to get my MBA. I was at Notre Dame, and there was a spirituality class that I had to take, and it was like, what are your morals and values, and does your work align with your morals and values? And up to that point, my main reason for all of that stuff, for even going back to school, was fortune and fame. I was 29. I wanted to be on the Forbes 40 under 40. That was my goal. I didn't articulate that very much,
Right.
but in the back of my mind, that's what I was chasing.
Sure.
And then that was a come to Jesus moment where it was like, man,
Literally,
I
right?
need,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was. It was. It was God changing my heart that is not the most important thing in life.
Yeah.
And so, in that process, that soul searching, is when I realized that I need to align my faith, my family, my morals, all together with my work, and that led me to eventually starting my own business.
And I think it's fair to say you need a support group right behind you, whether it's church, family, whatever, to really let you out on that ledge, because you are on the
Absolutely.
ledge, right?
Yep, you are on a ledge, and you gotta. The interesting thing about those accountability partners, those people that are holding you accountable, is that you have to determine and identify whose opinion matters the most to
Right.
you.
Yeah, that's great.
Because if you've ever read Teddy Roosevelt's "Man in the Arena," right?
Oh, yeah.
Great quote,
Absolutely, yeah.
awesome. I got it printed. It's hanging in my office. And it's all about like not listening to the critics, not listening to the people who've never gone through the trenches and they haven't been in that with you, but they love to throw stones. That'll never work. That'll never take off. That's a dumb idea.
Yep.
And you gotta block that out. And so for me, first of all, it's my wife. Like she's my greatest accountability partner. Can say the hard thing, but then also my biggest source of encouragement.
Sure.
Good job. That's awesome. You did that. And but then there's about 10 other people that I,
Sure.
talk to on a regular basis. They can
You
ask.
need that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They ask the hard questions. They are not afraid to tell you, hey, you got to course correct. And, the Bible talks about a reproof to a wise man is worse than 1,000 blows to the head of a fool. And what that's saying is really like a fool is ignorant. But if you're a wise man, you're going to listen to and pay attention
Sure.
to correction, to
Yeah.
wisdom.
No, that's a great point. Have you seen some of the same things that Pete just talked about?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, my faith is a big part of what I'm doing now. I feel like the Lord had called me into this business. So, I definitely think having that family behind you and that core group of people that, like you said, Pete, these are people that I trust, that that I know
Go ahead. Yep, keep going.
they're gonna hear, and they're gonna give me the things I need to hear. So, and I do want to say one thing. I think you touched on a little bit. I think though, when we set false expectations for ourselves, things that we think, man, I want to be this or that, and we don't attain those things, it comes back and it hurts us.
Absolutely.
So I think just being real with who you are and where you're at,
Yep.
and having that
Absolutely.
foundation you're talking about is very important.
And by the way, if you heard that, it's not an assassination attempt. We're all okay here. But real quick, talk about, there is that pressure. So you need a support group, right? So you went from, I knew what I was getting paid every Friday or every other Friday, to I'm not sure what tomorrow's going to bring. So how do you handle kind of the pressure of making it happen on your own and not, I guess, being overeager? You know what I mean? So there's a balance there, right?
Yeah, you have to set obtainable goals.
Sure,
right?
absolutely.
You have to set things that you can. If your goals, I'm gonna make $10 million this year in sales. That's very likely to be an unobtainable goal. You need to establish some good short-term wins, some things
Sure.
that you can quickly accomplish, and celebrate as a team. Some of mine were get the website launched. Create $10,000 in revenue. Make that first sale.
Sure.
Get that first invoice
Yeah,
out there.
that's good.
And then you celebrate that, because you look at the source, that sense of accomplishment. And if you've set an unobtainable goal for yourself, you're going to be struggling for that sense of accomplishment.
What would you recommend on setting goals, realistic goals?
Well, I mean, I think you and I've had a lot
Yeah.
of opportunity to coach. So it's being a business owner is a lot like a coach. You have to really, those that are underneath you or for yourself, you have to set those goals. So little chunks at a time. You don't eat an elephant one bite at a time is how you do that, right? So no, I agree. I think little goals, little wins every day as an entrepreneur is huge, because like we talked about before we went on air, I mean, it's up and down.
Right.
Every day can be up or down. So you need to just make sure every day you're getting some sort of win.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're going to get to a point, I'm confident in you, by the way, you'll get to a point where you're going to have significant growth, but how do you manage that growth so that, because there are companies that fail because they either grow too much or too fast, or they don't know how to handle that success. So
Right.
maybe give us an idea on that.
Right. No, I think that's a really good question. It's something I've thought about a lot, because I'm not there yet.
Right.
I'm 9 months into this thing. I still give the analogy that my business is like a tiny little baby bird,
Right.
that needs constant nourishing and protection, and it requires 100% of my focus and my attention. If I take my eye off it, it'll die. It won't survive. And so, while I'm not, that's how I am managing the growth right now. I'm protecting this fragile little bird, but at the same time, when that growth does come, I think it's important not to grow too quickly. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are tempted by the idea of hiring a lot of people. You can definitely overinflate your staff too quickly.
Absolutely. Sure.
To not stretch, to stay in your wheelhouse in terms of your products and
Sure.
services. Don't try to bite off more than you can chew. So, for example, I'm in commercial real estate, but I know nothing about medical or restaurants or hospitality.
Right.
So it'd be foolish of me to try to buy or start a restaurant right now. That's not. I have no interest in. I'm not skilled in that. That I should not do that. That would be poor management of growth and performance.
Sure.
But yeah, right now, today, it's protecting that little baby bird.
Yeah.
That's how I'm managing it.
And I
Well,
think
you've read some books that have talked about this, correct?
Yeah, no, and that's one of those things. Real quick on that though, I think one of the things we as entrepreneurs we really fight is the next thing too. Sometimes, so
absolutely.
if you want that growth, you need to focus on what's in front of you right now. We talked about lean startup with Eric Reese, talking
Yeah.
about starting small, growing your business slowly, incrementally.
Yeah.
But I think staying focused is a big thing, right? I mean, it's easy to want to, let's try the restaurant idea, or like,
Yeah.
this looks fun, this looks great. But again, it's about time management, staying
Absolutely.
focused.
What are some of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs really have to look at and think about before they do something like this or get into their own business?
Yeah, I'm sure for everybody, depending on the product, it's going to be a little bit different. But time management is one of them. I mean, for me, I had made the decision. I left the corporate world. I started my own company. I wake up Monday morning. Okay, this is it. what do I do?
Right.
How do I spend my
Yeah,
time?
it's a big one.
And I think that's very natural, right? Because you can get bogged down with so many little things that, I need to get business cards. I need to get the website going. I need to do some market research. I need to do this. And it's like what's most important is you need to define what is a successful day for you. Because I spent a month not knowing what a successful day was for me, not knowing, if I do this, then that's a good day. And so I'd get to the end of the day and it was like I spent 12 hours working, but what did I get done today? It
How big of a challenge is the financial part of what you're thinking about?
Oh my gosh.
Is that always on your mind, I guess?
Yeah, so if you were to, I would say first big challenge, time management. Second biggest challenge
Finances.
is the finance.
Sure, yeah.
Because I'll tell you, right now, a lot of banks are gun shy. Nobody wants to
Sure.
sign a bad deal.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make a bad deal.
Right.
I don't, I'm not going to survive if I make a
Right,
bad deal.
exactly.
But lending and financing, now I've made a commitment that I'm not trying to raise investments. I'm not trying to raise capital. I want to stay in control of this for as long as I possibly can till it's absolutely necessary to bring somebody else on. And if I never have to do that, that's great. But I do need lending to go do the next project.
Sure.
And I've already encountered it. 9 months in, I'm getting feedback from some lenders. Well, he doesn't have a steady income anymore. Well, no joke. I started my own business.
Yeah.
Right,
I'm an
exactly.
entrepreneur. So
Yep.
what do you mean by that?
Yep.
And you get this sense that banks only want to lend to people who don't need the money.
Yeah.
And I know that's not true. I know that's not true. There's a lot of great lenders in the area, but you got to structure the right deal, and it's difficult as an entrepreneur. To
What's
find those.
interesting, though, I do want to get your thoughts on this. You absolutely started the business during a pandemic, during a social injustice crisis, and so
Yeah.
you've had to really 2020 has not really been conducive to entrepreneurship,
No,
right?
no,
Yeah.
it was a punch in the gut. I mean, we started with wind in our sails, and we had a lot of great things lined up.
And part of your business is in Michigan, which has had stricter
Exactly.
shutdown
So Michigan
constraints.
was really difficult. Unfortunately, I had 2 large projects that we were supposed to start on April 15th and May 16th. Everything got shut down. We're in the middle of the permitting process, trying to start construction on these jobs to get the tenant in, to
Sure.
generate the lease, to generate the revenue. And literally we put all that on hold for about 12 weeks. And just now, in the last week, have we been making progress on that again. So it was, it took a while. And yeah, Michigan was really tough.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, financing obviously is always an issue, right in the back of a mind.
Well, absolutely, and I think, again, I referenced the book Lean Startup, and all of that, you have to take all of that in mind. I think a lot of people, you touched on it, they want to grow quickly, they want to grow, I want a company of 100 people. We're a company of 6.
Right.
We've been doing this 10 years, we're still a company of 6. So yeah, funding is huge, but I think you need to have a plan. Too.
Yeah.
You need to get creative too. I mean, it's maybe not always through a bank. I mean, there are strategic partnerships, maybe bringing in a business partner or angel investors, people like that. But I think there are opportunities out there. I think you just need to get creative.
Yep.
Yeah, so maybe as we kind of close down our conversation, conveying to others that are looking at this option, right? That I've got an idea. I've got a great idea for something. What are some of the biggest things that people should consider when they want to maybe get into their own business?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing first that you have to sort out if you want to be an entrepreneur is to check your heart. What's the reason behind this? I saw this great quote the other day, and it was if hard work is your motive, I'm going to grind it out. You're going to run out of that. You're going to run out of that energy. If trying to be your own boss,
Right,
is
yeah.
your motivation.
Right.
You're
That's
gonna,
always a big one,
You're gonna run out of motivation
Right.
for that. If getting rich, we talked about that. It's
Yeah.
not going to happen right away, and so you're going to run out of motivation for that. The only thing that is really going to motivate you is a love for what you're doing, is a passion, is an inspiration that without your product, without your service,
Yep.
the world's not going to be a better place.
It's a what's your why, right?
Yeah.
Why? And
What's
what
your
is that?
why?
Yeah.
And it's
gotta
that
be a solid
conviction.
foundation.
That conviction is going to provide an infinite source of energy
Yep.
and passion to help your business be successful. And so that's the first thing.
Yep.
to really check your heart. Why do you want to do this?
Yeah, that's great. Well, we've enjoyed having you in this discussion. Can you stick
Yeah,
around? Because
absolutely.
every week, Matt and I are going to have what we call our Mount Rushmore moment. So this week, we're going to look at, we're always going to look at the top 4 things, right? So this week, we each put together a list of the top 4 business movies that we think have come out. And so I'm just going to kick it off. I'm going to say Wall Street, Michael Douglas, Gordon Gekko, Greed is Good, Greed is Right, Greed Works, and greed is going to save this malfunction known as the United States of America. I think it rests on that. I say no more. But what's your number 1?
Number 1, I'm going with Aviator. I like Howard Hughes. He's just a peculiar guy, but took some risks. So I love Aviator. Great movie.
Godfather 1 and 2. All I need to say there is love your friends, love your enemies more, is what Don Corleone said, Marlon Brando's role. And then when Michael Corleone took it to Las Vegas and became a multi-billion, trillion-dollar industry, I think Godfather 1 and 2 for me. Great business people. Maybe not great social skills, right? But very good business people. Go ahead, you're number 2.
Number 2, I'm going Jerry Maguire. Show me the money, right?
Great
I mean,
movie.
I think the passion that Jerry Maguire displayed for his client, it's huge.
What's interesting there, and real quick, we can get your thoughts, but Jerry Maguire stepped out, right? Was with a big
Yeah.
a big firm and
Yep.
said, I'm going to
That's
do
right.
this on
Do
my
my
own.
thing.
No
That's right.
clients, right?
Yeah.
Had one client.
And talk about the pressure,
Yeah.
to make something work.
Yep.
My number 3 is Glengarry Glen Ross. There's a scene in there with Alec Baldwin talking to the outside salespeople. It's about 7 minutes long. It's probably the best 7 minutes of any movie. Coffee is for closers. That's all I'm going to say. You cannot close it. Your coffee's
Keep the
for
small
closers.
kids out of the
Keep the
room.
small kids out of the room. Yeah,
Plug
exactly.
the
Go
ears.
ahead.
Number 3 for me is Pursuit of Happiness, the Chris Gardner story. You talk about perseverance and the why. I mean, I
Yeah.
love the moments between him and his son. So that's my number 3.
Yeah, so my number 4, Moneyball, which the movie stars Brad Pitt, but it's the real life story of Billy Beane, the Oakland A's general manager. And he said, why would I sign somebody for $30 million a year when I can get 2 players for maybe $10 or $11 million a year that can give me the same production as the $30 million? So a lot of, looking at kind of
Yeah.
lean manufacturing,
Yeah,
right?
I love it.
Looking
That's
at some
great.
of those,
That's
I think
great.
it's a great, really in business, it's probably a good model too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Why sign somebody
Absolutely.
for 250 grand if I can get 4 at 60, right?
Crunch
They're
the
gonna-
numbers, be
yeah, crunch-
efficient.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So you're 4th?
Number 4 for me, Secretariat. Penny Shennery. I mean, a woman in that business back then. Her grit and perseverance. Just another great movie.
What's interesting there, she saw the vision when no one else did. They thought this
Absolutely.
was kind of
Yes,
a
she did.
clumsy horse
Yep.
with no potential, and she took it and did that. So we've got 2 minutes left. We want to wrap up. Your thoughts on?
I don't get to list a movie?
Yeah, what's your movie? Give me
Oh,
your
come on.
movie. Yeah.
All right, one of my favorite, It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart.
Oh, yeah.
Really
Love it.
realizing that, being thankful and appreciating where God has you in the moment. And I love the quote, the inscription in the book that he gets at the end from the angel, and it says, "No man is a failure who has friends."
Yeah.
And that's so perfect, when you're thinking about struggling through some things. If you've got your friend group and a good support group around you, no man's a failure.
The other part of that movie I love is when he gets the chance to see what the town would have been like without him.
Absolutely.
Right? And
Yeah.
so I think that's
Absolutely.
all of our, we get a chance to see who comes to our funeral without us even dying. So
Yeah, yeah.
last, we got about 30 seconds left. What is, kind of your top tip taking away from this show to entrepreneurs that do want to start?
Yeah. Check your heart.
Sure.
That's the big thing. You got to be willing to grind it out and be willing to go the extra mile. And if you're in it with a sense of purpose and reason, and you stick with it and you hustle, this is America, and anything's possible. And you will not be one of those statistics if you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, kind of recapping your thoughts.
Yeah, I would just say be humble and be ready to sacrifice.
Yep.
I mean, that's just real simple.
Well, it's great having you.
Yeah, fist pump.
Yeah, in the spirit of social
Appreciate it,
distancing.
man.
Yep, we practice that here. Thank you for watching the Entrepreneur's Playbook. Stay with us as we'll continue our series talking to a group of entrepreneurs that will share their stories and their trials and tribulations and how to really make a success out of your business. Thank you for watching. I'm Phil D'Amico along with Matt Huntsberger and our guest, Peter Rienks. Have a
you.
great day.